Kia ora team, can you guys hear me all right? Or is it just, they're not on? I mean, there's not many. Oh, there it is. All right. Nau mea haere mai, e te Stormwater whānau. It's really great to have you all here. I'm sure people will be coming in as we go, but we are starting to run out of time, so I do think we should start. So first up, ko Sarah Nolan tuku ingoa, ko Ngāti Whakaora te iwi. I work for Healthy Waters in the Auckland Council, and it's my pleasure to be here to chair this first session. And it's also my pleasure to chair the first session with the iwi that we are standing on their rohe, doing the first presentation. So it's my pleasure to welcome Phil Wihongi from Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei and Aria Huriwaka, who is from Beca, who has been supporting Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. There's a beautiful bio, but in the space of time, I might just leave it to them to introduce themselves. So kia ora. Please give them a round of applause.
Wa tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa, mihi atu ki a koutou. Ko tai mai I rungi te wharanga o te rā nei. Ko Wihongi ahau, e uri o Hene Amaru, a kaumahi kei Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei.
Thanks, Sarah, for the warm welcoming and the kind introduction. Tēnā tātou katoa, ko Aria Huriwaka tōku ingoa, he uri no te arawa, Ngāti Tamatera, Ngāti Taratoka Nui hoki. I'm a kura kaupapa Māori in the Victoria University of Wellington Te Herenga Waka graduate, landscape architect from Beca. And on behalf of Beca, Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei and Morphum, thank you for having us today.
Kia ora everybody. Today we're here to talk briefly around a kaupapa that we've been developing with our partners Beca and Morphum, which focus on the Whakaora or Ōkahumatamomoe. Our kōrero today is to demonstrate to you all that we have the means to take a broader catchment approach to elevating the mana and the mauri of our Whai as a singular taonga. Our mahi with our partners allows us to weave together our mātauranga and the best of Western science and engineering practices to, we would say, achieve outputs and amplify outcomes to serve our place, our whānau and our communities as tangata whenua and tangata moana.
What we will speak to today are instead some of the core principles that make Te Whakaora o Ōkahumatamomoe unique, entirely place-based and focused. We will describe a way of working that is led by tangata whenua and mātauranga Ōrākei, supported by trusted and highly valued technical partners and the knowledge that they bring.
It's always good to come a little bit with there's some speeches that have gone on beforehand, so the messages that we're going to put out there have been laid down. But the one I'd like to really think about is Hana's comment that stormwater is a taonga that extends across all the way. Here's some graphics here about what we're not going to talk about today, which is basically 40 standalone initiatives within a urban coastal catchment, a small one, but a very important one for the tribe Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. It's a mixture of simple proprietary devices, nature-based solutions, combination of cultural practices to create infrastructure and heavy infrastructure. The program has not been activated as yet, just being upfront. It's currently sitting with our tribal leaders awaiting their endorsement. We're expecting to have the okay to proceed at the start of the new financial year, so soon. I guess the difference about this kaupapa is that this is about us. This is about the tribe leading on our own whenua. It's not a local government initiative. It's not being led by consultancies. It's about us. It's about us being active kaitiaki. It's about us bringing together the knowledge that we need. It's about us serving our Whai and our taiao for our future generations. As Ed said earlier, it's about us being good ancestors. So first and foremost, the first principle we're going to talk about is mana motuhake. It's the immutable right of tangata whenua to be able to exert our influence, our tikanga and our mātauranga on our ancestral whenua and moana. It's about us making decisions regarding resources present to provide for contemporary needs and future generations. Again, always about the future. Assured by Article 2 of the treaty, which our chief signed at Manukau. It was the Crown coming to us. It wasn't about us going chasing them. They came to us. That's a key point. The way we would describe our kaitiaki role is being of, being with, being in, and being for our whenua and our moana. It requires our adoption of an active and informed role as teina, or younger sibling, in our enduring relationship with the taio as our elder sibling. Just ask you to have a think about what that means and requires of us. So being of, being with, being in, and being for our whenua and our moana every single day. So, for those of you who aren't from Tamaki, so we're probably about 7 k's away from our tribal heartlands, which centres on Ōkahumatamomoe, the place of Ōkahumatamomoe. So it's here that we start to think about our whakapapa, the whakapapa of our place. Ōkahumatamomoe was one of the rangatira on Te Aroa, so instantly it connects us out into the landscape, across the motu down to Te Aroa, to those people down there. It is our tribal heartland. It sits on the area we call Te Whatu Toto, which is literally the heart's blood. It's one of the poster children of places within Tamaki Makaurau, where Whai systems and cultural connections have been completely disrupted from a thriving community. You see in the inset photo on the left-hand side, all the way through to what happened 75 years ago. The picture on the right is the photo in 1951 of the pā being burnt, of our wharenui being burnt, and our people being kicked off that whenua that has held them for and provided for them across the generations. What we are continuing to see in our kaitiaki role is that all Wai systems in the bay are significantly compromised. On the land side, most are now invisible and pipe bound, which results in water quality and siltation metrics continuing to decline for the bay, but for the harbour more generally. Waitemata kupingaro, habitat failure and collapse. The investment that we've made into establishing a mussel reef with our partners Revive Our Gulf is struggling, and it's struggling because of siltation. It's not allowing the kutai to be able to establish up above the silt that keeps coming. Our ability to engage with our Wai as kaitiaki is compromised at best, or removed entirely from the lack of access to our Wai. And the last thing that we're facing is in the centre of that of the image there is our tribal urupa. So what we're facing is with climate change and sea level rise, that is an untenable position that our ancestors are located within. And there's a massive amount of trauma involved in all of those things for our people that we face on a daily basis. Our village is there, our heart is there. This is an area that we're applying considerable focus to try and provide some leadership out into the community, to provide some examples for our partners to grab hold of and learn from. It's about us taking our mana motuhake and extending it. One of the key principles that we hold is that Wai is a singular taonga. It's one thing. With a whakapapa to which we are linked, which carries a mana and which is imbued with a mauri. Its form changes as it chooses to move through the hurihanga Wai, and all forms and processes of transformation carry associations with physical and metaphysical realms. Ed showed you a slide earlier which talked about some of those metaphysical realms. They're slightly different because that's for them over out in the west, but there's some key principles that apply across. We would suggest that focusing on Whai as a single living entity is the only way we can correct the condition our Whai is in. So talking about stormwater, talking about wastewater, talking about potable water, talking about atmospheric water. If you think about Whai and its fullness as a singular thing, it's the vapour that's coming out of all of us as we're sitting in here breathing. It's the 70% that makes up your brain, 70% of your brain that's sitting here hopefully listening to what it is we're talking to you about. It's the one thing. It's just changing forms, and we need to think about it as a one thing instead of cutting it up. One of the key things for us is that context is everything. And the draft sketch we are working on with our technical partners, Land Lab, is our graphically grounding the Whai cycle, the Huriwaka Whai, in our place. All of those initiatives within the program that you've seen up there, those 40-odd, will stand alone, but are designed to work together to elevate the mana and the mauri of our Whai, whether it chooses to be in those various forms I've just mentioned. Alongside that, again, as Ed has spoken to, a key part of our work with this program is establishing a monitoring program which is looking to measure change and improvement, hopefully improvement, across all domains. Again, leaning from combining both Western science and the mātauranga that we have, and we continue to develop through programs like this in a way that makes sense to our people. That's a key part. In a way that makes sense to our people and is useful for external stakeholders. Mana ki te mana. There's a great quote on the slide that comes from Tā Hugh Kāwharu, who is a significant leader a couple of generations ago for the tribe. He really helped to establish the tribe and set it on the trajectory that we're on now. So it's a very important thing, tupuna for the tribe. So yes, what mana allows, indeed, requires is sharing. One of the things that we've worked out is that we can't be all things to all people. So we can't reasonably have all the technical skills that we need to be able to deal with the issues that we're facing, particularly for us in a really urban context, with all the challenges that comes from things like intensification, the requirement for growth, and those sorts of things. Ideally, our first port of call is always with our people. So if we have within our tribe technical experts that have the capability that we need to help us with our problems, our challenges and our opportunities, we'll go to them every single time. Failing that, we'll look to trusted partners through our long-term relationships, and this is a presentation of some work that's been done by the tribe with our trusted and valued partners, Morphum and Beca. The key part of that is that these relationships are long-term, but what we've found is that it's easy to work with them on kaupapa like this because they share our values and our ways of working, and they share a common focus on creating outcomes of mana. It makes it easy for us to work with. We don't have to second guess what's driving them. We want to be able to work in high trust relationships that work in both directions. We don't want to be seen just as a fee-paying client that conveniently also ticks off your CSR goals. We don't want to be that. We bring a range of things to the table when we're setting up a program like this that are, but which aren't about the thing that we're necessarily focusing on. Which may be seen as peripheral, but we would argue should be seen as central where these opportunities are present. So my colleague Aria here is a great example of what can emerge through partnerships of mana, a building of knowledge and succession.
This kaupapa has shown me what partnership can look like in practice, not just in theory. It is very different from my day-to-day work. It has challenged me to stand confidently and allow myself to contribute in ways that feels both genuine and grounded in who I am. A big learning has been accepting the mutual nature of support, because it's not as common as you think. A simple but powerful example of this is the way our meetings often spill beyond their scheduled times or their designated rooms because we're too engaged and we're too invested into filling our kite and too passionate to stop. Those moments reflect trust and shared ownership and collective commitments. While I've been able to support Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei as part of an organisation, Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei and Morphum has ultimately supported me, and they continue to do so beyond project milestones. The relationships formed are warm, meaningful and mutually beneficial as they leave space for future potential, and that's something really special. Through this kaupapa, I felt heard and listened to. My ideas and perspectives are wanted. That has allowed me to bring my whole self forward. I'm grateful for the opportunity to support Hapū and airy aspirations for Ōkahumatamomoe. There has been a genuine willingness to implement tikanga and te ao Māori into the delivery of our mahi for their product, recognising the mana Māori professionals bring into these projects. And as a young Māori professional, it can be easy to feel vulnerable or as though you're navigating two separate lives, your professional identity and your Māori identity. This kaupapa and the support from both Beca and Aria partnerships has helped bring those two worlds together in a way that feels authentic, supported and affirming. I am super grateful for my dream team bringing aspirations to life and seeing the potential. A big mihi te whau and Jess no Ōrākei, and to my company Beca, George Wolford and Troy Brookbank, and our whanaunga from Morphum.
It's a great example of what you can find when you're working in partnership, and the ability to be able to achieve things that help young professionals along in their career and deliver the work. So it's an and. Whakapaparanga, so succession is a key part of what we try to achieve with all of our work, and we firmly believe that planning for success is inextricably tied to planning for succession. Our tribe's been really good at building professional capability amongst our people, lawyers, accountants, doctors, etc., and not so good at building an active taiao focus. Our kaupapa taiao, such as this one, actively seek to build our kaitiakitanga and an active and committed body of kaitiaki, informed kaitiaki. Whether they are armed with professional qualifications or whether they are wearing their gumboots, our focus is to keep our kaitiaki as close to the whenua and to the moana as we possibly can. What we've learned is key is ensuring that our people are able to see themselves in all of our mahi, their mahi, that it's accessible for them, that it makes sense, it simply makes sense. It's really important that our comms, our communications, our documents look and sound like us, like the place, like our place in ways that are authentic, in ways that convey complex information in simple and beautiful ways to inspire our people and the broader community. It's not about trying to dumb information down. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is make information accessible to bring people with us, as many people as we possibly can. Kotapukaki. Kotapukaki is our regeneration plan for Takaparawhau and Te Parewa, areas that are under direct control of the tribe, where we are able to exert our kaitiakitanga in the strongest possible mean, in the most potent possible way, because we're leading. It's our whenua and we're leading. We're controlling budgets and we're leading what it is that we're achieving. Te Whakaora o Ōkahumatamomoe builds directly off Kotapukaki, so we're building a whakapapa of mātauranga and design that will continue extending through all of our kaupapa. So there's signatures that we carry through. There's whakapapa, there's consistent messaging that follows through them all. That document articulates our tribal vision for our taiao, which is developed with whānau, which is really simple. Our whenua is healthy, abundant and alive with native vegetation, bird life and insects. Our Whai flows clean, clear and true. And moana teems with life and vitality. Our whānau are actively integrated within a regenerative and enduring relationship with Papa Tuanuku, Tāne Mahuta and Tangaroa. Te Whakaora o Ōkahumatamomoe takes his vision as basis for our framing of this program and provides us with a means for assessing the impacts of the Māori upon the Māori of the system within each of those 40-odd initiatives, irrespective of where that Wai is present in the catchment. If anyone wants to find a bit more information about the kotapukaki or any of this, then our team's available to talk to you afterwards. But yeah, it's how we've taken that simple message for our Wai. Our Wai flows clean, clear and true, and broken it down into what each of those words means. And then off the back of that, we've developed a range of mātauranga metrics. So it's always going back up to the vision to deliver on what it is we're trying to achieve on the ground. So this allows us to interpret those in a way that makes sense to our people. The score with our Māori metrics is highest where Wai is enabled to behave in a native manner. So where it recharges groundwater, where it transpires freely, where it's able to flow freely, and to gather where it needs to as it travels through the landscape. They're really valuable in the design of the program and in the delivery of initiatives when we start on that, but they also inform our monitoring framework and metrics within that to make sure that we're realising the long-term benefits that we are seeking, that we have to achieve. In terms of feeding into the overall program, our metrics, our mātauranga metrics sit alongside, Māori metrics sit alongside other matters, which is such things as complexity, the dependencies between each of those initiatives, buildability, and cost, so that we've been able to make prioritisation framework when these provide the cultural rigour that sits alongside those matters to really provide us with a rigour that we can take to our people and demonstrate that we are exhibiting rigour in all facets in our considerations. So you can see from what's up there, these metrics are not technical or complicated. They're accessible and they make sense to our people. That in turn helps us with our building succession with the tribe. They allow our people to engage with them now and importantly into the future, always into the future. The last thing that we'll touch on in our time, and it's running way fast, is about hope. So the program's building on the hopes and aspirations of our people, those who've gone before, those here now, but most importantly for those yet to come. It builds on a body of work that was done in 2012 that for various reasons hasn't been implemented. We've pressure tested it, we've updated it, we've worked with our partners to make sure it's fit for purpose, it's going to give the maximum benefit for the catchment, but also for our people. Importantly, the program's allowing us to build our Ketia Mātauranga Ōrākei knowledge developed by our tribe, which we then formally ratify with our leadership, and then we live as the basis for informing all of our kaupapa taiao that we're involved in. The circle doesn't end, it keeps going. We hold strongly that mātauranga must always be context-based and tied to the unique combination of people in place. Our belief is that in its most potent form, there's no room for generic approaches with mātauranga. So the mātauranga that Ed was talking about for Kaura Maki out in west, our whanaunga out west, that's theirs. There's principles that come through, but we need to be working from our own all the time, which talk to our context. Importantly, the program has also been designed to feed into our tribal education at our forthcoming kura, to provide our kids with the opportunity to learn about their taiao through curriculum development. So it's not an abstract thing that they're learning, it's actually them connecting with their whenua and reaffirming their whakapapa connections and their understanding of their own taiao. So the way that we've, all of our programs, we hook in space for, we deliberately build in material that can be uplifted and go across into curriculum within the kura when it comes. But the other thing that we're trying to achieve with it is to create opportunities to build pedagogical approaches which rise from the whenua and the moana, that rise within our tribal context, our traditions, our tikanga. It's about us being in our place for the future, for our kids. So, all of that. Again, our kōrero today was to demonstrate to you all that we, and it's the broad church that's attending this conference, have the means to lift up creative and create catchment approaches which actively focus on elevating the mana and the mauri of Whai as a singular taonga. Key to this is ensuring that tangata whenua are hardwired in, or in this case, leading programs. Partnership's been bandied around a bit. Partnership can come in many forms. We want the one that comes with a capital P. That's the one we want. We don't want one with a little p, because that one can sort of slip away in that balance. One of the things we're mindful of is the mana is the delicate balance of power and authority. So it's how we find that balance in that partnership with a capital P. So our mahi, together with our partners, we use together our mātauranga with Western knowledge to achieve outputs and to amplify outcomes.
So every program of works has the ability to provide more than just technical delivery of a solution. Our appeal is to all involved and all professionals present at this conference, central, local government, industry, research and education, to work together with tangata whenua to achieve better outcomes than we currently have.
Our Whai, the taiao and our mokopuna will thank us for it. We just have to open our minds to work together to create system change. Nore rai te iwi. Kei raro i te haumaru o te iwi o Ngāti Whātua, te mana o Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. Nei rata mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. Mauri ora.
Mauri ora.
Technology today. We have a few minutes for questions. Does anyone have a burning pātai? I have one. I actually have many, and I'm hoping to catch you guys after, because I think this is incredible, this mahi that you're doing, and as a council staff member to see iwi-led, genuine iwi-led mahi at such scale is so inspiring. I wanted to know, for you as a young Māori practitioner, what was the spot. What was a highlight? What was the moment where it just kind of clicked into place, being like, oh, this is me. This is what I want to do.
I think personally it's always been the foundation of what I wanted to do as a kura kaupapa Māori student, and as Māori I felt te taiao is really important to me, so, and designing and everything like that, so it was actually quite an easy choice, but I'm also very passionate about it. Thank you, Sarah.
Kia ora. One more round of applause, please, for these two wonderful people. All right. Kia ora for those that weren't here for the intro. Ko Sarah Nolan tuku ingoa. So up next we have our always, Te Akarata. And we have Jennice Stringer, who's from Auckland Council and is a Senior Project Manager with the Auckland Urban Development Office, leading urban regeneration and nature-based stormwater projects with Te Whakaoranga o Te Puhunui. And we have also the wonderful Cheilo, who works in Healthy Waters and is a principal specialist in the Sustainable Value team, who I know personally and is an absolute gem of a human. And they're going to talk about some real cool mahi. So round of applause, please, for these two lovelies.
I te whare e tū nei tēnā koe. E nā ma te haere atara. Rātou kia rātou, tātou kia tātou. Ki te iwi mana whenua, tēnā koe Ngāti Whātua. Ki ngā kai whakarate o tēnā kaupapa, tēnā koutou. E ure tēnei ngā pui no tūhoi no tainui anō hoki, ko Jennice tuku ingoa.
Kia ora, Jennice. Tēnā koutou katoa. E whanau mai au I Piripini, engari I tai mai tōku whanau ki Aotearoa, toru te kao tau ki muri. Ko tamaki makaurau, tōku kainga I nai anei. Ko Cheilo tōku ingoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā katoa.
Nā mihi Cheilo. Whai is a taonga, and Te Akarata shows what that looks like in practice when you care for something so special. It's about placing the pūhenui first and bringing it back to life. Te Pūhenui is a major South Auckland awa flowing around 12 kilometres, travelling from Tōtara Park through the Auckland Botanic Gardens out to the Manukorihi Harbour. As a key tributary, its health impacts the well-being of the harbour, long valued for its biodiversity and kai moana. The awa sits in a large catchment and holds deep cultural importance. It was once a soft-bottomed stream, but over time it's been heavily modified, straightened, cleared of its ngāhiri, and lined with concrete as urban development closed in around it. On top of that, the ongoing stormwater pollution took its toll, and by 2010, the awa had become one of the most polluted urban streams in Auckland. We must recognise the cultural landscape. The awa is sacred. It's connected to a network of wahi tupana that link the whenua to moana. These are places where whakapapa and mana of mana whenua are held within the landscape itself. When the land and water are degraded, the impact is felt across the whole system. It's been polluted, then the mauri and the life force of the awa does become dormant. Mana whenua. Te Pūhenui sits within the rohe of Te Akitai Waihoa, Ngāti Te Ata Waihoa, and Tamaoho. It is central to their identity and well-being. The name Pūhenui refers to the large silvery tuna, which is a short-fin eel. It reflects how the awa was once sustaining mana whenua, a key source of food, movement, and everyday life. Te Pūhenui also sits within an area that's ongoing changing and changing fast. To help that growth, Transform Manukau was set up to support high-quality urban regeneration. Mana whenua made sure that the Pūhenui was part of that conversation, as you can't have a thriving city with a polluted awa and disconnected people. That's when Te Whakaoranga Te Pūhenui, the Pūhenui Regeneration Strategy, was born. Grounded in strong Te Aho Māori worldviews, the strategy brought together tangata, whenua, and te taio in a practical way that could actually be delivered. It provided clear direction and mandate. I hope this video works.
Making the awa the centre of what we do, because when the water is healthy, our community is healthy.
We stand proudly as descendants of Whakaora and as Te Akitai Waihoa, Ngāti Te Ata Waihoa, Ngāti Tamaoho.
Te Waihoa have brought together this wide collaboration, this wide whānau of those who are committed to support this kaupapa in terms of the regeneration, which is at the heart of what Eke Pānuku does.
Hei pāngia haka te mea mo mātou ana he te Māori, te mana whenua te takiwa ne e ngā. Mo te katoa.
What you've just watched was a monumentous moment where agencies across many places came to sign a charter signalising and bringing together the strategy and bringing it into action. It's our version of a treaty. And this charter has really given us so much help along the way. Now, this award-winning strategy and charter was led by a very talented person, and she's in this room right now, and her name is Sarah Swart, and I have to acknowledge her. Now, to the project, Te Akarata, what you've been waiting for. Te Akarata is the first project to bring that commitment to life. That the name gifted by Mana Whenua, it speaks to the area's abundance, especially of this akatea vine that once grew there. It carries the 3 regeneration guides that are intertwined and guide us along the way. The project sits within the neighbourhood of Rata Vine. What was once a vibrant stream has been concreted over, with very little planting left and surrounded by housing that's been built to face away. Unfortunately, illegal dumping, litter, and unleashed dogs were very common. But to be blunt, this wasn't a place people wanted to spend time in. It was a place they wanted to avoid. We definitely had our work cut out for us, but the potential was there. Upstream had real ecological value, and it was the only greenway connection left connecting Manukau to the Auckland Botanic Gardens. To unlock that potential, we ran on-site activations like nature days, street cafes and wānanga to understand how the land was being used and where it wasn't. We worked closely with Mana Whenua, drawing on their knowledge and their narratives that shape the design and help us see what this place could become. This is where the principle of our first emerged. I'll hand over to Cheilo, who's going to take you through what that looks like.
Kia ora, Jennice. Awesome. So, remembering what it was like in the Rata Vine Reserve before this project came to being, the stream has pretty much been reduced to a concrete drain with limited ecological value, and people really did not feel safe in the space. So through the community activations and working closely with Mana Whenua, Jennice and the amazing design team, WSP, Morphum and Brasilio, and of course the wider team, were able to adhere to Mātauranga Māori and incorporate cultural aspirations. The key principles that they focused on included highlighting the awa and not hiding it, reconnecting the community to the awa as well as each other, establishing a strong sense of identity. We wanted this area to become a place to seek knowledge, respite, and nature. And also we had aspirations for it to become a place of mahingakai, resource gathering. So how did we transform and regenerate the area? So the key stormwater focal points for the project was naturalising the stream corridor and creating 2 new riparian wetlands. So the existing concrete channel, 400 metres of it, was removed to return the Awa back to becoming a soft bottom stream. The Awa was realigned to a more natural meander, resulting in 450 metres of naturalised Awa. The added meanders helped to slow the water down, and we included in-stream habitats to improve the biodiversity. So we added woody debris and root rods, which were fallen trees collected from the Auckland anniversary floods, as well as other construction projects. Cool. We also added rock riffles to improve fish passage and water quality, all of these contributing to enhanced biodiversity. In terms of the wetlands, the 2 riparian wetlands were established, covering about 1,500 square metres. We cut back the existing outfalls and realigned them to blend in with the landscape to discharge into the wetlands, and use rock riprap to dissipate the energy. I also wanted to mention that before we actually constructed the project, we identified wastewater pollution at the outfalls. So the Healthy Water Safe Networks team worked fast and worked hard to be able to trace and track where this pollution was coming from, and essentially we could address them. So a whole lot of houses in the residential area were actually connected, like their wastewater network was connecting into the stormwater and discharging to the Awa. So it was awesome to be able to find those connection points and fix them. So you can see in the photos as well there, some of the kauri rākau that Te Akitai contributed. And these act as nurse logs and provide habitat within the wetlands. So we prioritized wetlands over proprietary treatment devices like GPTs, because not only do the wetlands provide water quality treatment, they provided habitat, cultural visibility, and also have lower embodied carbon. The wetlands also interact naturally with the stream, so they take in surface water from rainfall and connect them through groundwater. So not only are they treatment features, they're living systems that enhance biodiversity and resilience. As part of our first design, we also installed shared paths and stream crossings. So we installed 1 kilometre of shared path and 3 timber boardwalks to act as stream crossings. The crossings provide important access to the Awa and also between the northern and southern neighbourhoods. They all had universal accessible gradients to allow the community to make use of them. And you can also see here, just next to one of the crossings, we've got a rock crossing to allow people to actually hop along and get across the stream and get close to the stream, hopefully not falling off and into the water, but that's part of reconnecting, right? So part of the fun. Also in the photo there, just under that big tree, you'll see the Awa Learning Hub area as well, so which has been earmarked for people to gather and learn about the area. Cool. And also a key element to the project was the riparian planting. The project included 1.2 hectares of ecosource riparian planting. We planted 25,000 native plants from over 75 native species and have a 5-year regenerative planting program to support the vulnerable species to make sure that they get established over time. The project was also able to hold a number of community planting days. You'll see there in the photo in the middle inset 2 of my tamariki participating in one of the weekend events, and they absolutely loved it, getting into the dirt and putting the plants in, and they look forward to returning to the area and seeing the ngahere, the forest that they help plant. So it's been awesome to have that sense of pride and connection actually coming through from our tamariki. In terms of sustainable outcomes, I know this is a very busy slide. It's just such an awesome case study, this project. We've achieved so much, but there's not really enough time to go over it today. The key highlight being that through thoughtful design and construction decisions, we've saved 184 tonnes of carbon emissions, which is equivalent to a petrol car driving around the Earth 25 times. So the design team maximised the existing assets and minimised hard engineering by working with nature. Also during construction, Glasgow, our contractor, focused on practical ways to reduce emissions and minimise waste. They used low-carbon concrete, they ran their machinery efficiently, and switched from diesel generators to battery packs to further reduce fuel use. They also sourced materials locally where possible and prioritised workers who live locally to cut transport emissions. In terms of waste minimisation, they've achieved awesome outcomes. Over 1,000 tonnes of material was diverted from managed fill. The concrete channel that was taken from the Awa was crushed and reused in a local development. Also, skip bins weren't allowed on site, they weren't there. It meant that the team actually had to sort any material and think of ways to divert them. So that was awesome. So really, overall, it was a series of smart and everyday decisions that added up to meaningful, sustainable outcomes. In terms of social outcomes, 30% of the project spend went towards mana whenua and Māori businesses during construction, which exceeded the procurement target for this project. Also, Glasgow was able to employ 2 locals who lived in adjacent properties. So they approached Glasgow at one of their neighbourhood days and asked if there were opportunities, and there was. So that was an awesome initiative. Te Whangai Trust also, who supplied the plants and did the planting work, were able to provide on-the-job training and pastoral support to 20 local rangatahi, and also provided restorative justice program support for 8 people. So these participants worked in the nursery and helped with the native plant propagation, and also several of them were able to help with on-site planting and maintenance activities. So as Jennice mentioned before, there's been multiple community events and activation for this project to bring the community along on the journey. The community feedback has been very positive. People are feeling a lot safer using the space. There's less rubbish and roaming dogs, and more people continue to use the space. One of our designers, I think Dana from Boffimiskel, has this heartwarming story of visiting the site after a recent storm, and finding a tamaiti, a young boy, sweeping up the leaves because he really wanted to help keep the area clean. So, just seeing that, and actually the community, the young people taking ownership and feeling connected to the area has been really awesome. Kia ora. Back to Jennice.
Thank you, Cheilo. Another tangata outcome is seeing mana whenua connected to their whenua. Just like this special day right here, where Paula and Edith relocated taonga species such as tuna, or when Kathleen chose ancient kauri logs to be placed within the site. Each of these moments are cherished and hold deep wairua. All of this has created a story of Puhunui that's embedded within the landscape. From unique balustrades and kit rails designed by Chrissy Moruhu, or a maramataka dial and play forest supported by Eila Hoiata. This supports learning, connection to te taio, and stewardship. Behind this, it also supports mana whenua's own healing and the reawakening of the Māori. We have a special Māori stone carved by Matua Ted, just shown in the photo over there, who says that all three iwi together uphold the Māori. All of this detailing has really created a special and welcoming place for all. As mentioned earlier, we worked closely with mana whenua, all 3 of them, and building that trust took real time and a lot of effort. It wasn't easy, but I'm really grateful for that because it strengthened the kaupapa and the purpose behind this work. These photos are from our community celebration day back in March. We weren't actually sure if anyone was going to turn up, and those nerves disappeared pretty quickly. We had over 100 people turn up from the neighbourhood, even on the same day as Polyfest, so that was pretty good. People were just so excited to get there and tell us how much they love their new place and how they could not believe that it could look like this. Here's another photo. The land has been carefully transformed and is now on a healing journey, and we know that real healing takes time. We're already seeing positive signs with taonga species returning and reclaiming their awa. These are nature's tohu, clear signs that regeneration is working. One of my favourites is this little guy, the koda, the freshwater crayfish. They are species in decline mainly due to habitat loss So seeing them here in the newly naturalised awa in the neighbourhood of Rātaa is something really precious. This project is all about people, place and nature being inseparable. At Te Akarata, you've seen already what's possible in a very short amount of time. Can you believe it's only been 6 months since we opened? And we're excited to continue to see what emerges in this place as it heals. Now, this project wouldn't have been possible without all these incredible people in this photo, and there are many others that have contributed. Because of them, Te Puhanui has a future where it will once again be abundant and sustain its people. Water is truly a taonga. Ko au te awa, ko awa te au. Ngā mihi nui. Thank you so much.
Kia ora, what a beautiful presentation, thank you. Do we have any whātai from the audience? Yep. I might just get you to shout, sorry.
Yes. Yes, it did. Oh. Sorry, she just asked me if there was a kakahi in one of the photos, and that is correct. During construction, we were very lucky. There's a picture there, sorry. We found a bunch of kakahi coming through the stream as we started naturalising it during construction. And when we spoke with Te Akitai, they said to us they hadn't seen them in 15 years. So it was a really, all of them are amazing, like even the pawaka, the wetland bird, and yeah, the crayfish we keep finding, so we're very happy. And thank you to the emu team who's helping us monitor the site.
I have one more question, just before we wrap up. What's next?
Thank you for that question, because I'm really proud to say that this is stage 1 of a network of plans, and we're currently in tender for stage 2. And if you think about this, is maybe the baby version of the big mama coming. So I'm very excited, and hopefully, you might want to come and see what it looks like and see what happens next. And we have a site, we're part of the site visits this Thursday, so nothing's better than seeing it in real life. Yeah.
Awesome. Round of applause again, please. And I'm stoked to say we have caught up. We're now on time again. Our final session in this is the Te Whakaora o Tangaroa, letting the awa speak. And presenting is Emma, Geoff and Stu. So Emma is a landscape architect and environmental engineer. She specialises in nature-based solutions for climate adaptation and flood resiliency projects, so I'm sure she's very busy. She has worked in New Zealand, the UK and USA, and has extensive environmental engineering, landscape planning and design experience. We have Geoff White of Manukorihi Hapū Charitable Trust, which I live in Whātua, so I'm pretty sure that's just down the road, isn't it? Hey, this is cool. All right. Geoff is the chairperson of Manukorihi Hapū Charitable Trust, a plantsman, nurseryman, and the driving force behind Te Whakaora o Tangaroa. His intuition, knowledge, and care have been the pillars, and I'm so excited to meet you. And finally, we have Stu, who I think a lot of us know. So Stu is an ecological engineer, specialises in the water aspects of ecologically sustainable development, particularly integrated urban water cycle management and water-sensitive urban design. He has extensive skills in planning, design, implementation of innovative and practical water management. Please give them a round of applause. Kia ora.
Te mea tuatahi, ngā mihi nui ki te haukoinga, Ngāti Whātua, mō te mihi kia koutou i tēnei ata. Ngā mihi, i te rangatira o tēnei hui, te raira, tēnā koe. Ko koro taranaki tōku maunga, ko Waitara te awa, ko Manukorihi, ko te ati awa te iwi, ko Manukorihi te Hapū, ko Geoff wai toku ingoa, no Waitara ahau. I don't know why I was asked to come here. I'm from Waitara, 6,000 people, but after the last 3 hours, I can see why. We have the same kaupapa, you know, and it's kind of freaking me out because what we've done here is just pretty much mirrored from what other hapū have done, and kōrero from our whanaunga and Waitakere, mind-blowing stuff. So, we'll just go through what we've been up to in Waitara. And so it's really, really important to understand the historical value, the historical significance to Manukorihi. So our pā site, you looked in here. So our pā site, which is a pātū watoa. So it was like, it's been there forever. No matter who you talk to, our pā has been there since the day dot. The name Manukorihi was given to us by a ancestral princess coming down from Kāwhia to her homeland in Ngāti Ruenui, which is South Taranaki, and it basically talks about the chorus of the birds. And so it's been a stronghold in the area for a long time. In times of strife, the hapū of and the iwi of North Taranaki used to come back down to find basically a refuge, and then also it's on a high bluff over the Waitara awa. So the Waitara awa protects it from being raided from the south, and the large area which goes up to the Taranaki coast was highlighted by the fact that in times of conflict, fires were lit by the northern iwi, and then basically there are stories of 2,000 to 3,000 people within our marae at certain times of conflict. So it's hugely important to us, and obviously the lifeblood of us all is the Wai. And so we're talking today about the Tangaroa, or the small awa, which is spring-fed just a little bit north of the marae, and so it has huge significance to us in maintaining it and the restoration of it. So what happened was, so this again a few slides. So the orange part up in the top corner, that's basically the estate of the marae, and then you also see down the bottom the old basically map where we had it was the harbour channel coming off. So we're very, very close to the coast, as you can see, and so the Waka taua, or the Waka harbour, was just below us, and then there's a large alluvial plateau where all the mara was, and basically those old photos there. So again, we're talking about how when basically the settlers arrived, and Waitara's famous because it was the first shots of the Māori War, March 17, 1860, up at Tukohia, which is very close to us, basically, a kilometre away. So that's pretty much what happened, and so the confiscation happened. Basically, they called Waitara a rally, sent in the surveyors, and basically everything that Manukorihi had was lost. And so going along from that, the river was diverted, was modified. They were bringing cattle and grazing stock down from up north, and basically freezing works was built there. And so, just the modification of the whole thing happened. Also, what we do know was, in times of strife, our people buried a lot of taonga in the swamplands just by the marae, and so we had to be aware of that when we started on this process. But I've said enough. I'll get the experts involved now. There's you. This one.
That slide was for Geoff, but I'll try and wing it anyway. So a few years ago, New Plymouth District Council instigated a sort of a catchment-wide program for the Tangaroa stream, and we're fortunate enough to get funding through MFE's Freshwater Improvement Fund. And so that sort of broke the stream up into the Awa up into a whole a number of sections going from all that the old Tauranga Waka down at the river's edge, which is now referred to as Pennington Park, right up to the Puna at the top. And the sort of the project the work that we're going to talk about today is just one of those 8 sections where the Awa goes through the grounds of the Ōwai Marae, which is obviously up in the pa. And so the whole project has included Manukorihi throughout, and the reason for the significance, I guess, of the Ōwai section, if I may, Geoff, is that the Awa was fully piped through there. So historically, the Awa was put into a pipe for around about 175 metres through the marae ground, and is no longer at the surface, which sort of is where we sort of came into this project. So is that? Yep. Don't know. Probably it's best to pass back to you for this one, Geoff, because this is really around your overall vision for the whole project. So I don't want to jump in.
Yeah. So my moia. So our dream moving forward was we talk about pai wā te rere, clean, clear, and running. Very, very important. Prior to us getting involved in this, the council had given consent for a housing development, basically up by the Puna, 52 sections, or 57 sections, sorry, and then no curbing and channeling. So the developer used that to his advantage, obviously cost effective, and basically all the wash when they were building the development came into the Awa. The whole thing got congested. You probably can't see, but it comes around a channel and around the corner, and it basically just turned into a big, basically an area of mud and weed and crap. And so I rang the council and I said, look, this can't happen. They came out and gratefully they made it part of their Whātua stormwater upgrade process. So our dream was to get it back to where it was. Dad was part of the piping because they wanted to graze stock on the marae, so when we had manuhiri, kill a beast, feed our people. So yeah, that's what we were charged with, and we got to the point where we said, well, how do we do this? We knew what we wanted to do, but we just didn't know what to do. So hence, here we go.
Yeah, so Beca and Morphum were fortunate enough to be engaged by the council to work alongside Manukorihi and the team on this project. And yeah, we've all been pretty lucky over the years to work on projects that are really fulfilling and fill our cup and we feel really good about. But you know, this is a project that I actually feel really privileged to have been able to work with. It's so nice to be able to go to the pa, to Ōwai, and to feel welcome whenever you go there, and to just feel that you know, been able to work in sort of, you know, a really nice partnership and establish those relationships. So I'd just like to say a big thank you for that before I get cracking. So early on in the piece, the stream is piped through Ōwai. So earlier on there was discussions around removing the pipe, taking the pipe out of the ground. The fact that the water's in the pipe, we know that that's obviously bad, but the pipe itself was also thought to not really be nice to be intersecting through the land. But in doing that, that suddenly becomes a sort of an engineering project with calculations and costs and things. So it's about 175 metres long. It's around about 2 metres deep. It's through an area that held you know, a whole lot of sensitivities, the tonga that's buried there, the historical sort of hurt, I guess, that comes along with that, and it would have required extensive excavations. And I remember Geoff once saying how nervous he was about the excavators coming in. You know, it's soft ground, it's still sort of wetted ground, and so just that sort of trepidation was there in the background as that was being sort of worked through with calculations of flows and things, and you soon come to the realisation that it's going to require quite a bit of extensive engineering to manage that, but also to try and make it look natural and feel natural. Yep, there we go. But we're starting from a pretty early base. So this photo here, I don't know if anyone here is into their weed species, but this is a South American Tradescantia right throughout the entire site, extensively planted with exotic trees, so big specimen magnolias and Italian elders and all sorts of things. And if you were to pivot 180 degrees and look upstream into the old historical wetland area, there's willows, Taiwanese cherry, black taro, elephant ear. It was just a sort of a menagerie of weeds, and it can feel somewhat overwhelming. And also, it didn't feel like the awa was necessarily there at that point, for me anyway. And so through that vision of clean, clear water, everyone sort of started to rally around that. But it was a bit of a case of where do we start? And so fortunately, as many sort of I guess council projects do, they can sort of go fast and go slow and slow down again. But Geoff had the motivation to really put the foot on the accelerator. And so the Tataio team got stuck in, and it'd be fair to say it was pretty rip, shit and bust, just get in there and get it done. It helps that Geoff comes from the horticultural background, and we worked with, and it's a shame she's not here, Olympia from the Tataio team was absolutely invaluable. We prepared a whole lot of really simple guidance of how to tackle each of the sort of the key weed species that were there without using chemicals, so just using hand graft, and we're talking about I think it's about 1.2 hectares, so it's a big area, all controlled by hand and all ripped out. And what it really struck for me is that when you went in there after the trees had been removed, after the weeds had been removed, you could start to feel the energy of the place. You could start to see the view shafts. You could start to look up and see what was possible, and it really changed the sort of the character and the sense of what we were working with. We then had a fairly significant rainfall event, and we all knew the area was wet. When you walked through the Tradescantia and the kikuyu grass, after rain, it was sort of up around your gumboots sort of thing. But once we'd actually cleared it all out, and that photo there that you can see there's probably several hundred trees that are missing from that photo from when Geoff and the crew had got in there, and then there was a big rainfall event, and the awa came to the surface and worked its way through the site. The pipe, there's a lot of discussion around the pipe as to whether it was partly comprised out of 40-gallon drums and various things, and it was pretty evident then that the pipe didn't have much in the way of capacity. It was failed and broken in parts, and the water returned to the surface. And really that was when everyone started to fall on the realisation of that the pipe perhaps stays in the ground, and we bring the awa up to the surface. And I guess it was just that moment of the awa telling us where it wants to go, and so I think that was really the rere and the wātea.
So I had a hui with, we have monthly hui anyway, but I just put on our kaumātua to guide us, and talking about the taonga, because we know the taonga's in there. And one of my kui, she said, just let the river talk, boy. I went, ka pai, that's all I needed. So the pipe stays there. The awa's telling us where it wants to go because it's just running right over the top. So that's where we got to, but we couldn't have done it because we didn't know where it was, because we couldn't see it because of the weeds, right? So now we're at a point where my kaumātua is telling us what to do, and if you know my kaumātua, you don't say no.
And so I'll pass to Emma to tell us what we did do.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Emma Content taku ingoa. I've had the real privilege to work as part of the co-design team with Stu and Geoff. So Geoff led us, let me see if I can do this. Geoff led us through a series of wānanga and hiko across the site to really embed Manukorihi's vision to Whakaora, Tangaroa, and to get a tangible sense of the place that we were working with. So those early designs, massive amounts of excavation with the fact of the taonga in the whenua, and this new kind of approach of letting the awa kind of dictate what we do. We needed to find a new way of working. So we walked the site to get a tangible sense of place, so we could really work with the land rather than trying to impose a design onto it. We worked together to develop design principles, setting on centred on letting the awa speak, which also included tau, which was really important to Manukorihi, to providing a place of peace and reflection for Hapū and Manahiri to listen to the awa. So the design that evolved was then deliberately simple through that process. It became kind of really clear and responsive to the land, water and people. So as Geoff said, the decision was made to plug the pipe rather than remove it. And we undertook subtle shaping of the landscape to encourage the awa in its natural path. We created backwater areas and ephemeral wetland areas to provide storage, and the permanent wetland areas would be restored to improve water quality and habitat. Point. So the design provides for nature by encouraging the awa to re-establish its connection with the whenua, with the soil, with the plants and trees. And we wanted the interventions to sit quite lightly on the land. Geoff was really keen on making sure that we elevated nature, the natural surroundings, the awa, rather than any kind of human interventions. So we followed the natural landform to create paths and seating areas with those natural elevation points, as Stu was saying, those clear views, shafts, taking advantage of them to place the seating areas for those outlooks. And material selection was guided by whakapapa, which I'm sure Geoff will explain afterwards in the questions. It's a really beautiful story. And we reused what we could on site. So exotic trees that were felled, we used them to create channel complexity and support habitat creation. And the design also provides for people by restoring that access to the awa, where we created passive places for tau, for peace and reflection. We created active places for play, for nature connection, and opportunities for education. So it serves Hapū, Manahiri, tamariki from the local kura, which there's 2 kura adjacent to the site, and it's also open to the public. So all the choices that we made together along the way really ensured that the project was not only technically effective, but also deeply and importantly deeply rooted in place. So the team really wanted the design not to force the awa into a fixed form, but just create a space and conditions that could just to help it shape itself over time. So while the early designs, the big 2 metre deep channel and the final design that we're showing here, both would have helped to kind of increase flood resilience for Waitara, the final nature-based mātauranga approach also facilitates greater cultural, social and ecological outcomes with much less disruption to the whenua, to taonga, and over a lower overall cost, saving around $400,000 for the capital works. I'll hand back to Geoff to explain the final solution.
Yes, so we took it on ourselves to we're not hydrologists, we don't know. And so one day in last July, it started raining, and it started raining, it kept on raining. The kohanga reo is just on this photo, it's just up on your right hand side there. Manukorihi Intermediate is just through the gap there. Waitara High School is just over here. So it's right in the middle of it. So I talk about Te Puku or Tangaroa. So this is the gully, and the kohanga, now my cousins said, well, you're going to flood us out. And I was like really worried about it. And so I went down there hour after hour, and what actually happened was the flow was really, really strong and really, really good. But then it swelled, but it went sideways. And to me it was a massive relief, but it also told me that it can handle it. So it was just a marvellous thing. So, you know, we've been watched readily by our community, and not necessarily Māori, but, well, the census says 47% of Waitara is Māori, but we still have a community, and now that it's there, we have so many people walking past. We have people say to me that they didn't know there was a marae there, you know, all those sorts of things. So now we have to talk about tikanga. Now we have to talk about when there's a tangi going on, all those sorts of things. Don't bring your dogs unleashed, all that kind of stuff. But what it's done for our community is just lifted everything. And what I will say is our kaimahi have become the police people of this project. It is theirs. You can't tell them otherwise. And yeah, so when we were talking about whakapapa, and we talked about this little, what do you call it, Stu? Cascade. We had to bring some rocks in, some kohatu in, and so we decided to get it from a tributary of the maunga called Manganui. And so in order for me to justify that to the powers that be, we said, well, think of it this way. Our maunga is so precious to us, and yet all we're going to do is we're going to transfer some rocks from that area to this area. They're cousins, so it doesn't really matter. So they're not strangers to the tangaro. The tangaro flows into the Waitara awa. The Waitara awa is fed by the maunga, and the Manganui is a tributary to the Waitara. So again, it's all about enhancing whakapapa, not introducing things, just using what's there. Yeah, it's kind of a beautiful thing, really. So yeah, yeah. And so where that bridge is, right at the top there, the wharekai is literally 30 metres from the top of that bridge. When manuhiri come, and it's almost an invitation for them to come over to the bridge to walk it, and it's lovely. For those of us who know tangi, and if you're whānau pani, or you're affected whānau member of the person that's passed, literally you don't get a break for 4 or 5 days. The ringawera, the people in the kitchen, they don't get breaks. So what we wanted to do was create seating for them to come over, come away from the marae. The wharenui's right there, everything's right there, and for them to just get a break, have a break. I don't care if they want to have a cigarette, doesn't matter. They just need to have a break, you know. And so it was really, really important. So part of what we designed was all about understanding what our people needed, and that was really, really important to us. And have we got any more slides here? No, we'll keep going. So the big deal for me was, I don't call it a partnership, it's kind of like a friendship. You know, these people are bright people, and they come to us and they say, do it this way. You've got to have the, I suppose, the strength to say yes, because we take a lot of responsibility on our own shoulders for our people. It's been like that all the time. I've been, you know, I live in the town. I know everybody knows me. What the hell are you doing up there? So, just mucking around in the water. But it's for the whole community, and then the validation is this. 2 weeks ago, my auntie Bao died. Perene Tupe. A stalwart of our community. But a lot of my extended whānau have been to Australia. A lot of them came back and they saw this. And you go, okay, we've done something good here. Things simple like kawakawa, you know, wahine or the whānau pani, because they're in a state of tapu, right? The kawakawa come from the Tangaroa. Literally walked 30 metres from there to there and then back to there, and you go. So in a roundabout way, the whole thing's kind of working. And then lastly, Moko Moko. While we were working, he popped his head out. And our wharenui down below there under the windowsill, again, it's whakapapa. So when that wharenui was carved in 1937, Apirana Ngāta, who was an MP at the time, brought the best carvers from the motu to come to carve in respect to Sumaui Pomare. So that's what the wharenui is called. That's why it's called Tikaroa Maui, because it represents everybody within Aotearoa. So again, the respect. And then the seeds, we were collecting seeds, because those seeds were from a tree that didn't belong in Taranaki. It comes from the Three Kings Island. It's a tauapau. We're trying to work out, well, how did that get here? No one knows. But again, the old people used to dry them, dye them, and use them as adornments, as necklaces. Or it could have been a koha from the people from Ngāpuhi coming down to Tiatiawa. So we don't really know. But anyway, I think we're done. Yeah? Okay.
Kia ora. That was unbelievable. As a quite new resident of Waitara, that was really special for me to see all the mahi that you guys have been up to, so thank you. We've got 2 minutes. Any patai? Adrian?
Kia ora.
Yeah, so the pipe was plugged. So there's a manhole sort of halfway down and plugged the pipe, and so the pipe remains there, but it's blocked so that flow can't go through it. And at the top there's a big pool that, interestingly, was like surrounded by massive big willows. Taking out of those willows alone really quite visibly transformed the amount of flow through that pool, and then also coming down. And then the section of pipe at the bottom, you couldn't really see, but at the base of the cascade, there's just a little safite still showing, and there's tuna and cockapoo that seem to be living a happy coexistence, just in that little bit of pipe at the bottom there. So, yeah.
One day Stu arrived with a exercise ball from the warehouse. What are you doing, Stu? They're going to plug the pipe up. So he climbed down the culvert, and he's
That was the experimental to see it. Turns out it didn't actually, because the water pressure got too much, and the yogurt disappeared down the pipe, which I was pretty surprised at, because it was pretty heavy, pretty well pumped up. So I thought, shit, that's a bit embarrassing. And then there was another storm about a couple of weeks later, and the ball was found downstream. So.
Kapai?
Cool. No other patai, then please round of applause for Geoff, Emma and Stu again. And that closes our session, so feel free to go get some kai for lunch. But thank you again to all the presenters. I think it's really important to have iwi and co-led partnership projects shown. Taonga is a wai. Wai is a taonga. Kia ora.